All right. Hello, 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 everybody, and welcome to our March 2026 card draw reading for the Sacred Witness Oracle Suite. I am super excited to dive in. There is so much that is happening energetically in the atmosphere for us this month. There are big energies that are up all across the board astrologically and collectively, and then, of course, in that individually. And I'm so grateful for those of them that could join us live on this one. And for future notice, I try to do this the first Saturday of every month. I'm trying to still dial in the time that works best. But if you are in the Sacred Witness Oracle Circle group, you can join me live and interact with me here over on Zoom, because Facebook Live and I are non-simpatico for whatever reason. It just doesn't like me every time I try to use it. So we're bringing it over here. So feel free to join us if you're a part of that group. If not, the links will be below this video on how to come and join us in that beautiful circle that we are in. Okay, so this month, when I was sitting in meditation beforehand and kind of feeling into what wanted to come forward, one of the things that I was really kept being drawn back to was that energy of the new lunar year and bringing in the archetypal patterns that really are associated with this from Chinese zodiac thing, which is this is the year of the fire horse. And for those of you who don't know, horses and I have had a very long history. They are a huge totem and guide for me. They were one of my first teachers in the art of sacred witnessing. And they have been a part of my journey for a very long time. So this year, although astrologically in their zodiac, I am a snake. So we just came out of my year with that snake energy. The horse energy and I have worked very closely together. And one of the things about the horse energy that really wanted to come forward and kind of hold this whole reading as we draw the cards, I haven't drawn them yet because I wanted to be live with everyone, is that the energy of the horse has this polarity within it, just like every archetypal pattern does. It has a quote light and a shadow, some strength, and then some areas that can really trip us up, so to speak. And we are so drawn to the horse because it is a symbol, a totem of freedom, of being able to move and initiate and to explore, this ability to run unbridled and unabashedly towards the direction that we want to play, to frolic, courage and strength and stamina. These are all things that are associated with the horse archetypal pattern. And it's all the things that we as humans try to control. We try to bridle it up. We try to put bits in its mouth. We try to, quote, break that spirit and partner with it, because there is a shadow side of that comes forward with that horse of trying to dominate, trying to control, trying to yield and take that unbridled energy and saying, we can focus it, we can control where that goes, how fast it goes, and what's it's doing. And I think that's a really interesting response to what we crave in ourselves. We crave this freedom to be able to move. And then at the same time, we also fear it. We don't know what it's going to do. It's unpredictable. And so when we go to partner with that energy, that freedom part of ourselves, that part of ourselves that has that quote fire and soul and inspiration, we try to control it. We try to like dictate where it's going to go, and we try to put it in between artificially with aids and other ways of working with it, that we can feel it's more tame, that it's more approachable and predictable. And so the very same things that we quote love and are drawn to in horses are the very same things that a part of us tries to go after and say, can I get it in all of these lines and columns and other stuff like that? Where the fire horse is not an energy that we can quote do that with. It kind of comes in and it sparks that fire and that passion and it, quote, blazes that trail. It wants to be in connection with us. And so it is about liberty riding. And one of the things that I eventually really came to work with was that how do we partner with a horse versus control it? Not treat it like a forerunner or a four wheeler where we point it in a direction like an inanimate object, but how do we truly partner? Well, if I'm going to swing my leg over that horse and I'm going to really let its own sentience and being there, that means it gets to also kind of talk to me about, does it want to go left? Does it want to go right? Does it want to go fast? Does it want to go slow? These is really tricky to truly partner with. And as we are trying to work with our quote true self, that's what we're up to. We're liberty riding with a part of ourselves that's not bound by the conditioning of our past, all those protective mechanisms, all those ways that we've been told this is how you should show up, this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do. We're asking ourselves to quote swing a leg over and sit with and merge with a part of ourselves that says, hey, I have a sentience, I have an idea, I have a thought, I have an inspiration, and it wants to move with us, and it wants to not buck us off and stomp us into the ground. It's not trying to harm us, it's trying to help us realize that there is way more than the path that we set our mind on. If you ever do trail riding or something like that, like there's a path that we think we're going on and what we're up to and how we're going to get from point A to point B. If I'm liberty riding, I might stay on that path, but then the horse might also be like, hey, let's go left. I might not know where left is. Do I trust that horse that it knows where it's going and it's going to guide me into a beautiful spot? And is the horse willing to listen to me if I say, okay, it's time to go back? Let's go turn right and turn around and come back. Like, what is that partnership? And what does that look like? It's really scary and intimidating. And so therefore we put our hands up, we try to like put a bridle, and that's the name of my organization, Unbridled Change. We try to put that bridle and that bit on this part of ourselves that has this fire, this passion, this freedom, because we just don't know what it's going to do, how it's going to do it, where it's going to take us. Are we going to be able to stay on, quote, for that ride? And will it ultimately bring us into a place that we want to be? And that's the tricky spot. So this energy that is up for us this year is really asking us to say, hey, what are we trying to do? What are we collectively up to with the direction that we're going? What are we individually up to? What bridles have been put on us that really are trying to break our spirit, not co-create with it? What ways do we have that we have been conditioned? This is the path, and we're not allowed to look off that path. We're not allowed to do anything else. How can we start to loosen that, build that inner trust to where we do feel safe, quote, throwing a leg over and patting that inner horse within us and saying, okay, I trust you. I'm going to let you guide. Knowing that it wants to work with us. It doesn't want to throw us off. It doesn't want to leave us in the dust. It wants to kind of schedule, which was the main horse when I was coming back from a coma when I was 13. He could feel when I was getting off balance. I had no catch because I was paralyzed from the middle of my back down. And he would stop and he would wait for either me to like pull myself back up or somebody to push me back up. And as I got to be more and more free with him, as my body came back online, it would do the same thing. He would start to feel me going and he'd be like, whoa, 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 where are you going? And he would look a little like, quote, drunk to an outside person, but he was moving to keep me balanced because he wanted to stay in partnership. If I fell off, he had to wait for me to like figure out how to scamper back on up there. And so he didn't want to lose me in a turn. And eventually I didn't have to use the bridle. I could think left or think right, and we would turn that direction, and vice versa. He was allowed to inform me like, hey, what do you want to go over here or go over there? And when I wasn't in a lesson format, I could have these beautiful, what I call partner rides. and they were exploring and going through out in the fields, playing, jumping, moving at different gaits, both on his back and then on the ground with him, where we would kind of, I called it playing tag, but we would play and we would have fun and we would explore. And even now, with the horses that are under my care, we would do the same thing. That's what our soul wants. It wants to play. It wants to expand. It wants to be in that dance of fire instead of that consuming of one way or trying to bust out and break through in another. It's a tricky energy to balance, and it feels really scary to the parts of us that want predictability, we want safety, and we want to know what's around that corner. Where our soul is inviting us to say, hey, can we trust that if we move that way, if we surrender that need to know who, what, when, where, why, we will move in a way that brings balance and support and ultimately freedom to everybody. That same thing that the horses are up to, that we so want, but there are just conditioned parts of us that kind of fear it. So before I dive in, does anybody have anything they want to share about that just idea of this energy that wanted to be explored? So ultimately, the card draw is to help us. How do we unbridle that aspect of us that just doesn't know about that? You're doing pretty good. Whoops, I think something popped up, but I can't see it because I have that turned off. Okay, I can see the heart. Okay. So let us dive in then. Go ahead and take a nice deep breath in and out. And that is that energy for this month, is what will help guide us in that partnering, building that trust with this fire horse within us. Oh, that's like the exact opposite of the energy, which is kind of interesting. So we do have to find that place. So the first one card that came forward is from the Sacred Witness part, and it's calm and remembrance. And so this is a core aspect. It's like the major arcana, so to speak, of this deck. And it's kind of like a hybrid little tarot slash oracle wisdom deck. And in this one, it's inviting us to remember that if we want to witness, communicate, and work with a part of us, one of those core aspects of that is going to be the ability to not be swept up in that which we are witnessing, and also looking to remember. The crocus, too, is a really beautiful plant medicine that I'll let you feel into it first, like before I dive into why the crocus wanted to come forward for this card. And you might notice there's a little owl down there. That's the totem for the sacred witness. Each suit has their own totem that goes with it. And so just feel into what is it that crocus maybe is inviting you to remember right now in this journey of feeling more comfortable with trusting your own self, the horse within. What does that mean to you? So Crocus, as a healing medicine, wanted to come forward to remind us that we can grow in places that people don't think we can, and we have our own innate timing. Crocus pops up first before, quote, spring is there, and it's all around us. This often has little, you can see it with snow around it. It's growing in places that you kind of look at it and you're like, why are you there? It doesn't make a lot of sense to our rational mind when crocus pops up and where it pops up. However, and it looks so delicate. I don't know if you've ever seen a crocus flower, but they're very like thin little tubular kind of tulipy almost looking, but even thinner than that. And they hold energy just kind of like that. And one of the things that crocus reminds us is that we have our own inner timing and our own knowing that might not match other people. Yeah, what else is coming forward for Lisa? Did you want to? I think something popped up.
Yes. And Iris says, thank you, beautiful. Thank you for your story. And also reminds me of the importance of grounding as well. Remember who we are at our core.
Yeah. Exactly. And that is, we have within us our own knowing that might not make sense to anybody else. And can we remember that? And can we embrace that? And can we help calm down the parts of ourselves that might be challenging that, furrow brow, wagging their fingers? What are we doing? Why are we doing it? Or like a kind of frenetic, frantic energy. Um, that if we can soften that and step back, we will remember that there is a knowing and a guidance that is within us. And I think about with this horse energy that we're building off of, and it's inviting me into remembering if I match a frenetic horse, if a horse is starting to get nervous or like thinking something's wrong, if I jump into that bandwagon and go, oh my God, what's wrong? What's this? What's that? Like we just ping off of each other. And next thing we know, the horse is turning into a kite. And chances of me turning into a kite with that horse is really high. Where if I can like stay calm and be like, okay, what's happening right now? What is it that you're responding to? Because maybe the horse is responding to something I'm not. If I can look inward, what part of me is having either a current time conversation or maybe an old time conversation? Can I see that? Can I acknowledge that? If I calm down that side of me, the beautiful thing is the horses are usually responding to a lot of things that are happening that we can't see inside of ourselves. So not just in the environment, but the environment of me. And if I do that U-turn and I recognize the different aspects of me that might be forgetting to ground and they're lost in a story from 5 minutes ago that pings something from 5 years ago that I'm not even consciously aware of, but the horse can feel that. And so that antsiness and that kind of frantic energy or fear energy or aggressive energy, like, whoa, get that under control and then come back to me. If I can see that and I can honor that, then I can tend to that and come back to present time, ground in this present moment. So maybe this month, as those energies are swirling around, to find that place of what is the ground, lovingly be willing to pause and see what else is there so that you can partner with that inner force within. And then there's one more card that wants to come forward. And we've had this card before, haven't we, Lisa? The shutdown stories. One of the things that I love about this deck is this is in the body bean. And so the totem for the body bean, I don't know if you can see it, it's a little tree. There's a lot of tree energy in this whole story reminding us to ground, like what Iris was talking about before, and to bring it in. The shutdown story in this deck invites us to recognize where we have automatic stories that, like the possum, kind of override our nervous system and take us into maybe functional freeze. So people pleasing, abandoning of a thought, feeling, or an idea, a numbing of self, shutting down some way our ability to respond in a way that matches who we truly are and kicks us into a program that we don't have a lot of current time consciousness with. Um, Again, with this horse energy, a lot of times with the way horses are trained, they're not looking for a current time relationship with a horse as a person. We're looking for a conditioned response. We're looking for a shutdown story, which is really unfortunate. It's not the way I work with horses, or I would imagine anybody who. But the unfortunate reality is we don't want the horse is punished if it responds with fear. It's punished if it responds with a little bit of a pushback. Oh, that hurts. I'm confused. I have a question. I don't want to go that way. It's not met with curiosity, kindness, and compassion. And so that is part of this card when this comes forward, is to pay attention to what are those shutdown stories within us. What have we been conditioned to show up as? and reclaim it. And so, what I love about this card, just like there's a shadow and a light, there is a light side of our fight, fight, or freeze responses. They are not bad. They are not trying to tank us. They're not something we need to quote override in us. They're something that we need to reclaim. So, what would a positive shutdown story look like? What would that feel like in you? When a request comes in that does elicit a question, a concern, a confusion, um, what would be helpful in that moment to have and that's kind of the answer, a pause? What would that feel like in a helpful way, in a way that's connected to you? Just take a moment and feel into that. If it wasn't an override and instead it was a choice, so this possum is making a little choice. And this came from a photo that I took when I was out. Is the inspiration behind this, where instead of the possum going all the way down into its freeze, it was able to look and explore. It was able to make a choice. I was able to let it know um, what was helpful and that I wasn't there as a threat. I paused to give the possum time to explore and adjust, and I stayed kind of in my spot, breathing and grounding until the possum started to move again, showing me that it was out of its fight, flight, or freeze. So if this is the scared part of us, a conditioned part of us, if we can pause and breathe with it, ground, do this long enough, it will start to move again and it will start to share with us. And so, what would that look like? And how can we start to reclaim and recondition this within us? Um, and with the horses and the fire energy, that pause is such a key thing because if not, it just feeds off of itself in a way that's like gets really frenetic and really outside of itself. But if we can have built-in pauses and the horse is allowed to stop its feet when it wants to, and then move its feet when it doesn't, when it's ready to move, it's a whole different ball of wax. So just feel into that. One more story that really wants to come through for the sentience of the horses. If you'll indulge me for one more story with them. Is when I was still doing what's called therapeutic riding. We have an aging herd now, and so it's not something that I'm able to offer out here anymore. But it was a huge part of my practice for like the first 15 years of working with unbridled change. And one of the horses in particular was really amazing. His name's Peppy. He's still with us. He's just retired. He's like, don't get on my back. But he was absolutely amazing. He was a protector in the light. He was a guardian of the nervous system. And one of the things that he often wanted to do was to, when a person was really working on coming out of this part, is he wanted them to be on him and to be riding him and working with him. And he would, on his own, the way we knew it was ready, he would go to the mounting block at Liberty on his own and stand next to it and then look at us like, hey, you're going to come over here and let that client get on. And the client always had choice. They did not have to get on at all. They were never forced to ride or to do anything. They always have the right to say yes, no, and maybe, just like the horses do. Um, but in this particular place, this was a young girl who had had a lot of trauma. She was a teenager and she had was either completely shut down or really volatile, a lot of that fire energy. And so I was kind of like scratching my head. I was like, whoa, we do not have impulse control. We do not have anything like that, like swinging her over on the back of a horse. I don't know. And so Peppy and I went back and forth for a little bit on it, and he kept going. And on the third day that he went to the ramp, I was like, okay, fine, we're going to try this. I'm trusting you, Peppy. And she was ready, she was game. And so I was like, okay. So we started the process of her starting to look at and remember. And I gave her the information. I was like, look, you can slide off whenever you want, but you can't really have a huge reaction sitting on his back because you're on his back. And so if you want to slide off and then have your stomping, yelling, whatever, great. But you can't do it on his back. And she was like, yeah, I got you, Michelle. I'm going to do it. I was like, okay, just as long as we have informed consent here. So off we went, and we started with just really simply just walking. And as she was walking, and we would work on a breathing exercise, and we would just chat, and she would have a moment where she would remember something from that day. We were doing a check in or something like that, where she felt overrode. And in the moment, she could never express anything. She just froze. It was after it, when she was in a session or a therapy session, she was in a safe place, that all the energy of what she wished she had been able to say in that moment when somebody was overriding her or bullying her or making her not feel safe, she wished she could have responded there, but she was so conditioned with that freeze that it didn't come. It came later, but at least it was finally coming. So that was huge. And he could feel when that was starting to happen. He would stop on a dime, and he would shake, and just ever so slightly, a little shake. Like, they can do full body shakes that really unseat somebody. And we always ride bareback. And so they can easily get off. There's not a whole saddle or something in. And she would slide off. She would go about 5 feet away from him, have her moment, yell, scream, do what she needed to do because it needed to discharge from her body. Peppy would wait. He'd be like, yeah, what else you got? And then he would close the gap to her, give her a little nudge. They'd walk at liberty together back over to the mounting block. She'd slide back on, take a little breath, and he'd start walking again. And they get a few steps. She would start telling another story. He could feel the discharge that needed to happen. He would do a little shake. She'd slide off. She'd walk over. And we rinse and repeat this week after week. And then eventually he did a shake, and she went to slide off, and she was like, no, I can tell you. And she was able to use her words, and he just stood and he waited and he breathed with her. And then he would start to walk again. And through this dance, she started to figure out her own nervous system, her own freeze response, and her own way to come to calm, right? And we can do this on our own. We can start to feel that bubble. Like, in the moment, we might not be able to do it, but if we build practices on the backside where we give our place that to come and be the peppy for our system that sits down next to it and says, okay, what was that like for us? What are all the things we wish we had said? What are all the things that we were angry about? What did it remind us of? Where did it take us? And then we come back to connection, just like Peppy did. She didn't stay lost in that memory because she came back to a current time connection. So we could say, okay, now what can I do now? How do I want to show up now for myself? It might never be going back to that moment where we had that freeze with that particular person, but we can start to build that out within us now. And that is how we build a liberty ride, right? Like, one step at a time, over and over, coming back to ourselves with that guidance and that thing. And so, yeah, that's our recording for the month. Any thoughts or shares or anything that's bringing up for you before we sign off? You can unmute if you want to. Yeah.
So
Iris?
good. So beautiful. Just thank you so much for sharing those stories. They so resonate and definitely make me more aware of letting myself have those moments where my inner fire horse will hold space for me and let me do my thing and then step back and get back on the horse. So thank you so much for that.
Oh, you are so welcome. Thanks for helping to bring that energy and that story forward. It always comes when we're in these connections and with that. Yeah, to remember that we can reconnect, and to do that. Yeah, absolutely. Any other shares? Lisa, do you have anything? Yeah.
Um, And I see a lot of times where I'm Cancer, I'm very much of a crab where I need to go within and then I need to put feelers out to know if the situation is okay. So similar where I need the space, I need to stop, and then I need to gradually come back in.
Power of this shutdown stories and the light. So while knowing our freeze responses are definitely helpful, I find like just exploring what would a healthy version look like right now. We need to pause. We need to rest. We need to have that place of holding and grounding and bringing that in. And knowing that there is that beautiful attuned part of us that can hold that space, that protector in the light. And Peppy very much has a fire energy to him as that is working forward. And he's taught me how to hold that beautiful guardianship space with like if anything tries to bully somebody like the horses within the herd or anywhere else, he is kind of that herd guardian. He lovingly comes up and he just like brings this energy of grounding that helps all the horses like stop, find their feet, and they're like, whoa man, sorry, we kind of overrode each other. And so, yeah, we have that within ourselves too. Well, I'm excited to hear. I would love for you to share how this is any ahas that are coming forward this month in the Sacred Witness one. You can do it in the post that goes with this recording or just on your own. Just do a share of how this is working for you throughout the month. And what card draws, either within this deck or another deck, are helping you to be able to bring that forward. And yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for joining and being a part of this. And I will see you in the next one, offering you light, love, and joy. Michelle.